Hey, Shalom Israel. This is the ISUPK Wednesday law class. Also remember to check out Commanding General Yohanna's radio show, which is Monday 2 a.m. Also Saturday 2 a.m. We have classes here in the States Monday through Friday. We have them live 394 Lodge Road, B18 5PW. We have them on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, 7 p.m. till 9. We have online classes Tuesday and Friday, 7 p.m. till 9. And listen, man, we're going into the royal family today, man. We're going to go into the royal family. We're going to go to the soldiers that fought in the wars. We're going to go into the crown jewels. We're going to go into how Queen Elizabeth and them rightfully shouldn't really be on the throne and who should really be on the throne. We're going to go into how they got the throne, how King James ended up ruling England, Ireland, and Scotland. We're going to go into all of it today, man. If we have enough time. So you have to give me 1 second. All right, so yeah, we're gonna go into. Hold on. Listen, we got one books to go into today. So now the first book we have here. We're not even gonna read it. We're just gonna read the title. So this book is called "All the Countries We've Ever Invaded." So this is a book, and it goes into all the countries England have invaded. So it says all the countries we've ever invaded, and the few we never got round to. Which is letting you know England's invaded a ton of countries, man, and there's only a few they didn't get around to. So let's read the back of the book. It says out of 193 countries there are currently UN member states, we've invaded or fought conflicts in the territory of 171. That's not far off a massive jaw-dropping 90%. So now England has found their way into 90% of countries, man. England have found their way to 90% of countries, and guess what happens? The Queen you love so much, she okays it, man.
That's right.
She sanctions these wars. She sanctions her armies and Parliament and all these things to take care of these wars. What you will find is since her family took over the throne, there's been wars on top of wars on top of wars. There's been wars before, but not like this. Since they've took over, what have they done? Colonized everyone. Beat everyone into subjection, stole from the whole earth. They've raped, robbed, and murdered their way around the whole globe, not just in England, around the whole earth. Now we're going to go into this book's called The Windrush Betrayal. So now we're going to go into the Windrush Betrayal. Give me 1 second. What page is it? So now, we know black people fought in World War One and in World War Two, helping out England. They fought to help out England, and how did England treat them? How did England thank them? They deported them, man.
Right.
And the Queen never once said anything about it. The Queen never once said, "Don't deport these people." The Queen never once said, "Don't deport these black people, man. They've helped us win wars." The Queen never once said, "I can rest my head at Buckingham Palace comfortably because these black people fought in the war." She's never once said that. She's never once said, "Me and Prince Philip have 750 bedrooms to go and have sex and all whatever because these black people won the war for us." She's never once said that, man. But what they did do is deport you. They came together in Parliament and came up with new agreements. Let's make up this form saying they need this paperwork to stay here, knowing they didn't give them the paperwork. That's documented in a book as well. That they came together saying to them, "You need this paperwork," knowing that the people wouldn't have that paperwork. They done this to deport them, but when it was wartime, they got us over here. So now, this is a guy called Alfred Gardner, served in the RAF as a ground engineer in England during the Second World War. Says he borrowed money from his father to buy a ticket on Windrush so he could return to Britain permanently in 1948. So as I'll show this picture of this man in his army clothes in front of the camera. This man there on the left, that's the mother set when he's older. This man there on the left, he's in the clothing of the king, man. And that's what they would call it, the military gear. They would call it the clothing of the king. Now, this man came over here, fought in World War II. He was an engineer and stuff. They done all of these things. And what was the thanks they got? The thanks they got was what? Deported, man.
That's right.
The thanks they got was, you've got your legs blown off, but we're not going to give you nothing for it. We're not going to give you no land. We're not going to say you can stay here. We're not going to give you British citizenship. They done all of those things and still didn't get British citizenship. Look how his smile changed from the first picture to the second one, man. This one right here is a man who's saying, damn, I gave my life to these people and look how they treat me. Go back to the first picture. This is a picture of a man saying, I've made it. So this is the picture of a man saying, I've made it in Great Britain. I've made something of my life. I'm in the outfit of the king. Go to the next picture. This is a man. And he realizes I fought for nothing, man. Give me the next page. There should be more pictures on the next page. And this sister here, she was in England from the age of 6. She was in England from the age of 6. And she died at about 60 something, man. And what did she die of? The stress of them threatening to deport her, man.
Right.
The stress of them threatening to deport her. She died, I believe, at late 50s or 60s. Meanwhile, Queen Elizabeth lived to 96, man.
Right.
They said she died peacefully in Balmoral, man. Whereas we don't die peacefully. We die stressed out, man. We die young in our teens, in our 20s, in our 30s. We die stressed out. And she died comfortably in Balmoral, man. Read under the picture. There should be something under the picture that it says in the
Paulette Wilson, 62, with her daughter Natalie Barnes. Paulette came to Britain in 1968 when she was 10 or 11.
Listen, man, she came to England when she was 10 or 11. That's basically a child. Go ahead.
She worked as a cook for decades, spending some time as a canteen worker in the House of Commons, serving MPs. Half a century later, she was told she was an illegal immigrant.
Half a what?
Half a century later, she was told she is an illegal immigrant.
And she was told she was an illegal immigrant, man. She came over here, 10, she worked in canteens, done all the cooking and cleaning. And years later, they told her she was an illegal immigrant.
Right.
After black people fought in World War I, after we fought in World War II, you would have thought this country would have loved us for the sacrifices we gave, man.
Right.
For the sacrifices we gave. Read on.
Arrested and sent to an immigration detention
And
center.
she was arrested and sent to an immigration detention center. And I didn't see black people cry for this sister.
Right.
But I seen them cry for the Queen, man.
Right.
I seen them line the streets. I was watching the news today. They said the wait to go say send your condolences to the Queen is a 30-hour wait. They said there's queues all around central London. There's people queuing up, crying, because they want to go say their goodbyes to the Queen, man. And listen, man. The Queen, when you die, she don't even put a wreath on Windrush Square.
Right.
On Windrush Square, you can't even get a wreath. Go to the next page. There should be a next picture on there. You might see the same sister. Is the same sister on there?
No.
Look, let's see. Read this one for me. Hold on. Yeah, give me this one at the bottom. That one there at the bottom. Hold on 1 second. Read that for me. So that's the sister there. So read that one for me underneath it. We're going to quickly touch on the Windrush before we go into the royal family, so go ahead.
Sarah O'Connor, 57, and her daughter Stephanie O'Connor at Sarah's British citizenship ceremony in August 2018. Sarah had been in the UK since arriving from Jamaica, age 6.
So she arrived in the UK age 6, go ahead.
In 1967, she was told she was an illegal immigrant.
And in 1967, she was told she was an illegal immigrant. By this time, Queen Elizabeth was the Queen of England, man. She was the Queen of England, parading around with that crown, man. Parading around with that crown with all the diamonds in it and the rubies in there, man. That crown that's got all the diamonds and the rubies and all the gems in there, man. That they take and modify every so often and keep fixing up the one that they keep in the crown jewels in the jewel tower in the Tower of London, man. She's parading around with all of those things, full of gold everywhere. She's parading around with the golden scepter. She's parading around with all the tools, the commemoration spoon and all of these things. Meanwhile, black people is stressing and dying, man. This woman's got a gold spoon, man.
Right.
She's got a gold spoon. She's got a golden scepter with a big diamond in there, a pear-shaped diamond in there, full of diamonds all up and down the stick part. She's got all of these things. Meanwhile, black people have nothing, man. Meanwhile, we have nothing. We can't even get a crumb. We can't even get a wreath from the Queen, man. We can't even get her to visit Windrush Square once in her life, man. Once in a 70-year reign, did she ever say anything nice about black people, man?
Right.
Even when it was the Newcastle fire, she didn't come out and say, I feel sorry for all those black people that died in the Newcastle fire. But she went to Ireland, man, and felt bad for them. And when black people needed feeling sorry for, nobody felt sorry for us, man.
Right.
We should not be feeling sorry for the Queen.
That's right.
I mean, we should be feeling sorry for black people who spend their last breath stressing about if they're going to be deported or not. That's what we should be worried about. Read on.
She was told she was an illegal immigrant in 2016 and was consequently unable to work. She died a month after this.
She did chew up.
She died a month after this photograph was taken.
Show the picture. She died a month. It's the sister on the left. That's the daughter. She died a month after this picture was taken. So after this picture was taken, the sister died, man. Which she died from stress, from thinking she's going to be deported after giving her life to England, man. Which lets you know we shouldn't give our life to England.
Right.
Hold on, press that. Let me see if there's better one there. Yeah, that's, give me this one. Give me page 51. This one where it's highlighted. Read that part for me.
Well, when we first came over here, we were more or less welcomed.
So now they said when they first came over here, they was more or less welcomed. Why was they welcomed? Because they came to fight in the war, man. They came from the Caribbean. They came to fight in the war. So as they came to fight in the war, they was welcomed, man. England welcomed them with open arms. With open arms, England said, yeah, this is your place to stay. We're going to get through this together. We're going to go to war against these other nations together, man. And you're part of the colony, so what? You're part of England, man. Come and fight for us. And then you and your family will have a better life in the future. And they came and fight for England. And we had no better life in the future, man. We're still getting killed by the police. We're still getting thrown in jail. We're still getting oppressed. We ain't had no better life since we've been here, man. Which lets you know all of that was BS and the like. We ain't had no better life being here. Go ahead.
Because we were in the uniform of the king.
And they said because they was in the uniform of the king. So the uniform of the king is, hold on, let me show you the uniform of the king. Obviously, it would have changed significantly from them. Hold on, give me 1 second. So now this is the uniform of the king. So now when they talk about the uniform of the king, obviously they would say king back then. Why? Because back then they was ruled over by George. Was it King George the Sixth? So yeah, that's who was, yeah, George the Sixth. That's who was obviously king at the time. So now this would be the uniform of the king. So black people thought, okay, I've gotten this uniform. It means I'm somebody now. Whereas your uniform is your black skin, man. You can't put on no other uniform and think it makes you mean anything. Your uniform is your nationality, man. Your uniform is that. You trying to be anything else other than what the Lord chose you to be, it's not going to work, man. I don't care how much uniforms you put on. You've tried to put on uniform in the mosque. It didn't work for you, man. You tried to put on the uniform of the king in World War One and World War Two. It didn't work for you. You tried to put on the uniform of Christianity. It didn't work for you, man. You should be who the Lord called you to be, man. Right. Instead of trying to put on other people's uniform. They even knew this. They said the uniform of the king. They knew it wasn't their clothes, man. This is all of this clothes that these are wearing in the army. It don't belong to us. That's their uniform, man. And we put on their uniform and we think that makes us one of them. It does not make us one of them, man. And it shows because even though we had on the same uniform as them, they were in separation from us in them trenches and stuff, man. Imagine this: we meant to be going war side by side, and they still wanted to be separate from you. They're so separate from you that what they have what their cenotaph in the big part of London, central London, where all the tourist goes, where all the money goes, and your cenotaph is where pushed against the wall in Brixton, hidden against some wall that people walk past and can't even see it. That's what you get for putting on the uniform of the king, man. That's not our uniform. We should stop trying to be like them, man. Read that from the top.
Well, when we first came over here, we were more or less welcomed because we were in the uniform of the king. But when the war in Europe ended and the war in Japan ended, some of the other people tend to say to themselves, well, you come over here to help us to win a war. Now the war is over. Isn't it time you go back?
You said what?
Now the war is over. Isn't it time you go back?
And they said, now the war is over. Isn't it time you go back? That's what they said to you after you fought in World War One and World War Two. After you lost brothers, sisters, and all of them things, man. After you lost loved ones in the army, they said, yo, it's over now. The war's over. You helped us win the war. Ain't time you go back. Read that one more time.
Some of the other people tend to say to themselves, well, you come over here to help us win a war. Now the war is over. Isn't it time you go back?
Read that. And listen, they said, you came over here to help us win a war. Now the war's over. Ain't it time that you go back? Which lets you know they didn't want you in their country, man.
Right.
And that's what that's what we get. All this fighting and all this going to war and us trying to join England. This is the thanks we get, man. Let's get one more book. Give me page 54 in this. So this is a book called Great War to Race Riots. That's what I'm most
highlighted it.
Yeah.
Racial tensions began to emerge during the war, years when increasingly politicized black servicemen agitated for an end to the racial discrimination.
So now, black men during the war was what? Agitated due to the racial discrimination. Why? Because everyone was racially discriminating against them, man.
That's right.
Everybody was treating them bad and being horrible to them. And they spoke out about it. They said, yo, we want to end to this racial discrimination. This is in the midst of the war for it.
Black servicemen agitated for an end to the racial discrimination that they had suffered, even as they were being maimed and killed in the line of duty.
And they was being maimed and killed in the line of duty. And though they was fighting next to the British man didn't appreciate black people.
That's right.
They was maimed and killed next to him. And they was dying in these wars for a country that's not even theirs. for a queen that don't appreciate them, for a king that don't appreciate them. Charles ain't gonna appreciate you. Queen Elizabeth didn't appreciate you. George VI didn't appreciate you, man. All of these kings, man, don't appreciate black people, man. They don't want you here. They just have you here to carry out the dirty work. And when they die, black people cry, man. I've seen black people crying saying, "Oh, it's sad. This is history. This is the only monarch we've known. She reigned for 70 years, and it's sad. It's a sad day." I was thinking, this ain't no sad day. This is a normal day for us, man. Let's carry on. I'm thinking, listen, man. The amount of young black people that die and nobody cares, man. It don't make the news. But when the Queen dies, I can't even watch a program on the TV, man.
Right.
Without seeing her picture come all across the news. Listen, man. That's not our problem. We got young black people dying that we must care about.
That's
We
right.
got brothers and sisters dying that we must care about, man.
Right.
Instead, we're caring about someone that lived to 96 years old. Like, how long do you want her to live for forever? She's not going to live forever, man.
Right.
She has to die someday, man. I know you love her and you can't let go, but she has to die someday. Read that what you're reading.
Even as they were being maimed and killed in the line of duty, in December 1918, around 8,000 soldiers of the BWIR stationed in Taranto in Italy had been waiting for several months to be demobilized and given a passage home. Whilst there, they learned that their white British counterparts had been awarded a pay rise.
Have been what?
Had been awarded a pay rise.
Listen, don't that sound like everyday life? Our white counterparts always being given a pay rise, man.
Right.
Always being given a pay rise. And these black men in the army is like, huh? We're doing the same fighting as them. Why don't we get a pay rise? And they was upset about that. Now let's see what happened, man, when they questioned it. Go ahead.
Which was denied to the BWIR on the grounds that they were natives. And
They said, nah. They're getting a pay rise because they're natives. Black people should have said, well, damn this war, I'm not going to fight for you. You don't look at me as a native. Listen, man, I can't cry for Queen Elizabeth because I'm not a native, man. I can't cry for her, man. We're not natives of Great Britain, according to their words. So why am I crying for someone who only loves her own people? I'll be a fool for me to cry for her and love her when she hates my people, man. We need to cry for our own people. The Queen ain't no queen to us, man. King Charles ain't no king to us, man. That's just a title that has been given. Listen, man, they're nothing to us.
Right.
Read on.
Angry that the pay rise did not extend to them, and further resentful at being ordered to wash the dirty linen and clean the toilets.
And now the jobs that they gave to black people was what? To wash the dirty linen and to clean toilets. This is the job that they had black people doing, man. Washing dirty linen and cleaning toilets.
Right.
Hold that, but give me Ecclesiastes chapter 10 and verse 7. So hold that because we're coming back to that. So now we're going to go to Ecclesiastes chapter 10 and verse 7.
This is Ecclesiastes. Chapter 10 and verse 7. I have seen servants upon horses.
I've seen what?
I have seen servants upon
I've
horses.
seen servants upon horses, man. And whose servants? Queen Elizabeth, man.
That's
She's
right.
supposed to be a servant.
Right.
Whose servants? Charles is supposed to be a servant, man.
That's right.
Whose servants? Harry is supposed to be a servant.
Right.
And George, man. Because of our great fall, guess what? They're now the Duke of York, the Duke of Wessex, and whatever the other ones are. The Duke and the Duchess of Wales, and all of these things. They've become those things, man. And we've become servants walking upon the earth.
That's right.
No, we princes who are walking upon the earth. And servants are on horses, meaning what? There's a switch in power. There's been a switch in power, man. Because you know we ruled Europe during the Dark Ages. During the Dark Ages, we ruled Europe, man. And we're going to go into it in a bit. We ruled Europe during the Dark Ages. And there's been a switch in power, man. And now these princes is walking upon the earth and servants is on horses. Queen Elizabeth giving us orders on what we should do. She's a servant, man.
Right.
Liz Truss ruling over the country, telling us what we should do. She's a servant, man. Charles talking about how he's going to run the country and reinstating his brother Andrew, that's a paedophile. You know, reinstating him back today, right? He reinstated him as to do certain things. If I can't, this is what he said. Charles said, if I can't do certain things, then Andrew, my wife Camilla or Andrew will fill in for me. And Andrew is a known paedophile, man.
Right.
Whose mum paid 12 million of taxpayers' money to settle the case. Why? Because that's free money to her, man.
Right.
She didn't work for that money. Why? Because she's a servant on a horse, man.
That's right.
And the princes made that money for her. The prince is walking upon the earth, which is us. We made all that money for her, man.
That's right.
All that cotton we picked, all that sugar we cut down, all that stuff we done in slavery. We made her all that money. And now she's up on a horse, and we on the ground, man. And she's above us, and we beneath her. And we worship her, man, when we ain't supposed to. We have no king but Yahushua, man. That's our only king, man. We ain't got no King Charles and no King George and none of them, man. These Edomites kings, man. They ain't our king. Read that one more time.
I have seen servants upon horses and princes walking as servants upon the earth.
I've seen servants upon horses and princes walking as servants upon the earth. That's what's been going on with us, man. That's what's been going on with us. We, the princes of this earth, and now we're living like servants, man.
Absolutely.
Take me back to that book we was in.
Angry that the pay rise did not extend to them, and further resentful at the order to wash the dirty linen and clean the toilets of.
And this is what they have the princes of the Lord doing, man. Washing linen and cleaning toilets. Washing linen and cleaning toilets. That's what they have the princes of the Lord doing. Go ahead.
Of British and Italian labourers. They mutined.
And we was washing the clothes of the British and the Italian labourers. King George VI never once spoke out and said, treat these black people equal. He never once said, the fighting for England, include them, treat them equal. He never once said that, man. Parliament never once said, treat these black people equal. Nobody said that, man. They didn't say that, but now they want us to cry for the Queen.
Right.
Now they want us to cry for the Queen and life stops on Monday. As this closed, they can't even get a sandwich on Monday, man. Cinemas closed, they can't even watch a movie on Monday. Listen, this is what they said. People who have operations on Monday, their operations have been cancelled, man. People who have driving tests on Monday, driving tests have been cancelled on Monday, man. Why? Because they're burying the Queen. They're burying the Queen, man. And they've cancelled everything on Monday. Any plans you had on Monday, it means no. All these things have been cancelled, man. Since the Queen's died, man, she should free all the prisoners, man.
That's right.
Free all the prisoners, man. Listen, where's that pardon list? I'm sure the Queen has a pardon list, right? I'm sure she's a pardon list. I guarantee you she ain't put no black people on this pardon list, man.
Yeah.
I'm yet to see a black person go on the pardon list. Read on.
The army responded by sentencing the leaders to up to 5 years imprisonment.
And the leaders who caused this strike, they sentenced them up to 5 years in prison. Guess whose prison that was? Her Majesty's prison, man.
That's right.
Obviously, back then it would have been His Majesty's prison. It's still the same family, man.
Right.
That prison that they were sentenced in was the royal families, man. Understand this? Every time you cry for the Queen, just remember your loved one is locked up. Why? In the Queen's prison, man. Your loved one is locked away in the Queen's prison, and she could pardon them, but she won't pardon them. Why? Because of the color of their skin.
Right.
She won't pardon them. Why? Because she hates black people, man.
That's right.
So they would never get a pardon. Read on.
Though one was in prison for 21 years.
One was what?
One was in prison for 21 years.
Imagine that. A man got in prison for 21 years because he wanted a pay rise like white people and they refused to give him. And he was upset that he had to wash people's linen and clothes. And he was in prison for 21 years. And you're telling me I must cry about the Queen who had a 70-year reign, the Queen who lived 96 years of happiness, 96 years of not lifting a finger, 96 years of doing no hard work. She had life easy, man. She had life easy, and black people have life hard, man.
That's right.
And this is why we don't live to 96. Why? Because we have life hard. The reason why we don't live to 96, why? Because we get worked to death. We get murdered by the police. We get shot. All this work you do, I mean, it's like having a car. Like, listen, if you had two cars and one never gets driven and you drive one all the time, which one is going to break down first? The one you drive all the time, man. The one you put in the mileage on. The Queen can live to 96 because she's got no mileage on her, man. Because she does no work. Black people do all this work and we feel the wear and tear. We feel the wear and tear from this hard work that we do. And the Queen and the royal family, they do no work. The only thing they do is appearances.
Right.
What they do is appearances so it looks good. And wave to the crowd and shake the crowd's hand. And that's all they do. Then they go back home to Buckingham Palace, to Balmoral Castle, to Windsor Castle, to all these castles that they have, considering they love England so much. The Queen's got about 700, almost 800 rooms in Buckingham Palace, and I'm still seeing homeless people, man.
Right.
All these rooms, we shouldn't see no homeless people. England's fallen into recession. The Queen's got all them diamonds, though. The Queen's got all them tiaras. You know, some of them tiaras is worth 200, 300,000. That's not even the crown, that's just the tiaras, man, which is in her personal collection. All that jewelry you see her with is worth millions, man. Millions. All them jewels you see her with, the bracelets and all of them things. She's got some of the best diamonds this world's ever seen, man. Some of the best. She owns like what? At least 8, 9 of the best diamonds this world's ever seen, man. And what does she do? Puts them in her crown. Puts them in the stuff she carries. She puts them in her in pendants. She puts them on her outfits. Listen, man. She lived a good life. She lived 96 years of diamonds, man.
Right.
96 years of riches. 96 years of not paying taxes, man. That's how she lived 96 years of free money. 96 years of a free income, man. The royals get a free income. We're going to go into that a bit later on, man. Even little George, Prince William's son, that's about 5, 6 years old. He's got income coming in, man. He has income coming in. Meanwhile, us as black people, what do we have? Nothing, man.
That's right.
We're struggling, we're dying, and then people tell us we should cry to the Queen, what I read on.
And one was executed.
And one was what?
And one was executed.
And one was executed, man. Go ahead.
By firing squad.
One was executed by firing squad. Now, firing squad, what do? They have like, I'm sure it's 6 people. Five guns have bullets in. One don't have no bullet in. And they're all sharpshooters. So then you shoot someone, they die. And then the reason one person don't have a bullet in their gun is so you can go home with peace of mind and think, well, maybe I didn't kill him because my bullet didn't have the gun in there. Because you will never know because they all shoot at the same time. So everyone can go home saying, well, maybe my gun didn't have the bullet in there. And that's what firing squad is. Usually they tie your hands behind your back and they all shoot you at the same time, in the same place. That's what firing squad is. Is anyone that allow it?
That's it, man.
All right, now we're gonna let's look at the Queen visiting hold on 1 second. Hold on. So now this is the Queen visiting the cenotaph. This is her over the years visiting the cenotaph. So I can turn that speaker on.
The Queen paid her own tribute in South Africa, where she and the Duke of Edinburgh attended a multicultural remembrance service in Durban.
All right, so this is the Queen putting a wreath on the cenotaph in 1954.
The Queen paid her own tribute in South Africa, where she and the Duke of Edinburgh
This is her putting another one in 1999.
attended a multicultural remembrance service in Durban.
This is her putting another one in 2009. (2011). 2015.
It was the Prince of Wales who took the spot where his mother would normally stand. If you needed an image to record a moment in British royal history, it is this.
Now, obviously, Charles had to fill in for his mother at one stage, right? Because one of them, she was away out the country on a business trip. And one of them, she sprained her back. So she couldn't make it to some of them. Apparently, she's missed about 4 or 5. But she sprained her back, so she couldn't make it one time to the cenotaph. So this is her laying down, obviously, the flowers at the cenotaph.
The Queen stepping out onto a balcony overlooking the cenotaph instead of laying her wreath.
This is the Queen again in 2020. Obviously, at this stage, she's old and frail, so she can't really walk how she could before. Obviously, now she can't walk at all, so lucky. She can't walk at all now that to carry the wagon, so lucky. It's another topic. But now, that's the Queen visiting all them cenotaphs. So now, let's look at yours. Now let's look at yours, man. Listen, the Queen visited for all them years. She visited the cenotaph, putting flowers there and bowing her head to remember the soldiers that died in World War I and World War II, to remember the sacrifice they made. You're not included in that. Listen, look, this is yours right here. This is yours right here, man. This is your war memorial right here. I don't see the Queen there. Look how small yours is, man. Look how small yours is. Where's the Queen, man? Where is the Queen? I don't see her here, man. The Queen doesn't. Let me find a picture of it. A top of picture. Listen, look at the difference. This is their one right here. The cenotaph there. Look at yours. I wish this picture was no, it's the same thing that we've just done. But yeah, look at yours. Yours is so small that nobody notices it. So you mean to tell me the Queen couldn't come to yours once just to put one there so black people could say, yeah, the Queen came to us. The Queen didn't come, man. And you want to go to a funeral, man? You think you're going to be welcome in Windsor Castle? You think you're going to be welcome in Buckingham Palace? Nah. You fought for her countrymen and died, and you can't even get a wreath put on your little cenotaph, man. Your little cenotaph, which is like 4 feet tall, man. Black people had to go through it themselves. The Queen don't come out. They don't do that 21 gun salute, but at their one they do all of that.
Right.
But at your one, nothing's done. Nothing's done at all, man. You died in vain. Give me Isaiah chapter 51 and verse 23. Imagine that, man. You died in vain, fighting for a country, thinking, you know what? This is our country, and we're going to die for it, and we're going to fight for it. That's what we was told, man. Fight for this country and die for it. It's the mother country. That's what we was taught, man. This country is no mother to us, man. This country ain't no mother to black people. She ain't never visited your cenotaph. Give me Isaiah 51 and verse 23.
Isaiah chapter 51 and verse 23. But I will put it into the hand of them that afflict thee, which have said to thy soul, bow down.
And this is what they tell us, man, to bow down, man. They tell us bow down with everything, whether it be religion, whether it be the job, whether it just be everyday life. They tell us to bow down, man. And we bow down, man. We don't.
That we may go over.
And they tell us be a monk for them, man. They tell us to be a doormat, man. We must bow down and be a bridge for them to walk over, man. and we bow down and we be a bridge for them to walk over us. We lie down and bow down, and we was a bridge to England winning the war and the Queen now living the best life she could ever live, man.
Right.
We bow down to them, man, and they walk all over us. That's how they thank us. They walk all over us. Not once did the Queen visit your cenotaph, man. Not once. But she went to the one in Knightsbridge or wherever the hell it is, and she put a wreath there. On yours was no wreath there, man. There's nothing there at all. I read on.
That we may go over, and thou hast laid thy body as to the
And
ground.
we lay our body as the ground, man. We died in their wars,
Right.
and we didn't get no honorable burial. We didn't get no honorable burial. Imagine this. We was fighting against the Germans, and even the Germans didn't respect the black soldiers, man. The Germans would still treat their British enemies better than they would treat. You know what? The British soldiers would treat their German enemies better than they was treating the black men that was fighting beside them in these wars, man. They would treat their enemy better. They was having Christmas truces and playing football and playing all of those kind of things, man. They would go to no man's land and exchange Christmas cards and exchange gifts and coffee. That's what they would do. All of those kind of things. And black people, we can't even get the Queen to come and put a wreath on the Windrush, man. She can't put a wreath on where the cenotaph for black people is, man. We can't get no 21 gun salute, man. We can't get none of that. We can't get no camera action. Listen, hold on, let's just go on YouTube and see this. There should be a video about me. Because obviously a video, you should be able to see better. Hold on. All right, so this is remembrance. Hold on. Let me share it. Let me share screen this. Yeah, put that microphone.
What an awesome privilege to be here today. A sacrifice was made that we commemorate. A sacrifice by our military personnel.
Where's the Queen at, man? I can't see it. I don't want to see him. I want to see the Queen, man. I don't want him telling me. I want to see the Queen, man. Put a wreath there. Hold on, let's play some more.
Our families of military personnel. A sacrifice that affects generations after of our military personnel. A history that is now being revealed and told in its entirety, in its breadth, in its depth.
And this is so sad to see what black people are doing. Imagine this. Remembrance Sunday, all these Edomites is lining the streets to go see the cenotaph and the Queen put the wreath. And you're out here, and there's nobody out there with you, man. Just look at
Its
the background.
awesomeness
Look.
of the contribution to this great nation
You also
of
got-
our military
Listen,
personnel.
where your thing is, there's all graffiti in the back, man. All graffiti in the back on the whatever that electric box is.
Right.
Where's the Queen, man? She couldn't come once in 70, even though obviously ain't been there for 70 years, but she couldn't come once in her lifetime.
But I must tell you, the sacrifice they made is very much like the sacrifice someone else made. I'm in two armies. I'm the privilege of being the chaplain or padre of WASP, the West Indian Association of Service Personnel. That's one service. But I'm in another army, the Army of God, and he's my commanding officer. And I'm here to tell you, he's a very loving commanding officer.
Really, this black man is upset that the Queen didn't put a wreath there. He's upset she didn't put a wreath there. Let's just go with it. Let's see if the Queen shows her face. Nope, she ain't there yet. Nope, she's not there yet. Nope. I thought that was Charles, but nope. Nope, she ain't there yet. See, look, there's nobody. Listen, there's nobody there, man. Listen, this is the black people's one. There's nobody there. It's so empty. The police didn't even need to block off no roads that day, man. Didn't even make the news. Imagine that. It just about made YouTube, man.
Bravery, your heroism.
Where's the Queen, man? Look at that little senator from the Black Box. Look how small that is.
Couldn't even put it on the rest of the building.
Look how small that is, man. Black man, you getting your arms and legs blown off. This is your thanks. This little building. This building. Now look, man, all these black soldiers feel hard done by. Imagine this. These oppressors want their team separate from you. And this is why after the war, they said, go home now. After the war, they said, go home now. Listen, man, there's no point doing all that. The Queen didn't show her face. The Queen ain't coming. What everyone should do is take this outfit off and storm off and say, damn that, man, I fought for something that wasn't for me.
Right.
I put on the clothing of the Queen and she didn't respect it. I fought for her and she didn't respect it. Anyway, let me drop that. Now listen, man. It's a shame, man. It's a shame we done all of that and got nothing for it. And hold on, that reminded me, Princess Diana. Now, what you'll find is loads of black women love Princess. Have you noticed loads of black people love Princess Diana? They're like, Princess Diana was so real. Princess Diana was genuine. Princess Diana hated black people too.
That's right.
She hated black people too. Obviously, this is why black women relate to Princess Diana. Why? Because they thought that Princess Diana was hard done by Charles. They felt like she was misunderstood and no one understands her. And in black women's mind, they feel like, well, I'm misunderstood too. No one understands me and I'm hard done by. So I know what Princess Diana is going through. I feel like, listen, man, you don't know what Princess Diana feels like. Princess Diana had a net worth of in excess of 30 million, man.
That's right. Princess
Diana was the Princess of Wales, man. Princess Diana came from a wealthy family, from a royal wealthy family, man. And she was the Princess of Wales. You sisters don't know what Princess Diana feels like, man.
Right.
You're in the ghetto, man. Princess Diana never once said, yo, let's go help black people out. Princess Diana never once said, let me distribute my wealth and go give it to black people because they're so poor and they like me. She never once said that. Princess Diana, guess what she did? She visited the cenotaph in London and she didn't visit your one.
Right.
Princess Diana hated black people too, man.
That's
she was the Princess of Wales, man. What does that mean? She's a millionaire, that's what that means, man. She was a millionaire with tons of jewelry. She never put none of you black people in the world. Black people always talk about, Princess Diana this, Princess Diana that. Listen, man, Princess Diana hated black people too, man.
That's right.
And it's facts. Everybody in the royal family hates black people. Every last one of them. We think they love us when they don't love us, man. Their actions every day show that they don't love us, man. What did I say? I didn't come here to hate, but my brothers, you guys are lost. You're not God's favorite. We all are equal. Allow it. Jahura Ramos. If we're all equal, why did we go into slavery, man?
Right.
Why did the white man send us into slavery considering we're all equal?
That's right.
If it was all equal, he wouldn't look at us as actually, you know what? I'm gonna let history prove we're not equal. Let me just pull the next article. Hold on, let me pull the next article.
I'm sure Ramos must be living under a rock.
Let's see. Let me ask you again. Hold on, so Joshua Ramos, Jahura Ramos. Let me ask you quickly. We're all equal. Let's read this article right here. Let's see if we're all equal. We're gonna read this article and we're gonna see if, according to your logic, if we're all equal. We're gonna see if, according to the Queen, we're all equal. So let's go based off your logic. We're gonna see if we're all equal. Hold on. Considering we're all equal, read. Actually, I might have to read it from here. Hold on. Let's get this. All right, so he said we're all equal. Let's read this. It says Buckingham Palace banned ethnic minorities from office roles, papers revealed. Buckingham Palace banned ethnic minorities from working in Buckingham Palace, man. Why do you think you don't see black people working in Buckingham Palace? Why? Because Buckingham Palace banned black people from working in there, man.
That's right.
They banned ethnic minorities from working in there. I thought it was all equal. Hold on, let me go back to the comment section. Jahura Ramos. Jahura. Based on what we see right here, it says Buckingham Palace banned ethnic minorities from office roles. So are we still all equal? Give me a yes or no. Based on Buckingham Palace, are we all equal, yes or no? Come on, Jahura. Based on Buckingham Palace's own protocol, are we all equal, yes or no? So we're equal in God's eyes. No, see, and see, it said no, we ain't. So now, listen. If the Queen understands that we ain't equal to her, we have the right to understand that she ain't equal to us.
That's right.
If the Queen's got the right to ban us from roles in Buckingham Palace, we got the right to make her a slave in the kingdom of heaven.
That's right.
We got the right to ban her from certain things in the kingdom of heaven.
Right.
We have the right to enslave her and all Europeans, man. Why? Because they're going to be what? Minorities that is not equal to us.
That's right.
They're not equal to us, man. And the Queen that everyone worships, listen, if she lives to 96 in her next life, hopefully she's my slave in the kingdom, man.
Right.
She ain't going to see 96. Because she's going to be forced to do hard labor, man.
Right.
She couldn't go to the cenotaph because she blew her back. Because she sprained her back. She's going to sprain her back. Her back's going to be sprained from the whips in the kingdom, man.
That's right.
From the whips, her back's going to be sprained in the kingdom, man. She's had a nice life in this life. In the next one, she has to have a bad life, man. Don't think the Queen's going to live a good life to 96 and die and everything goes away. Nah. She's going to wake up one day and have to pay for the crimes, man. There you go. She's going to have to wake up one day and have to pay for the crimes.
She's gonna have arthritis.
There you go. She's going to have arthritis, man. No matter what we're going to put her through, man. Now let's read this article. It says Buckingham Palace banned ethnic minorities from office roles. Papers reveal. Exclusive documents also shed light on Queen's ongoing exemption from race and sex discrimination. Listen, man. The Queen has an exemption from race and sex discrimination laws. Let's read on. Says the Queen's courtiers banned coloured immigrants or foreigners from serving in clerical roles in the royal house. Listen, man, that order's coming directly from the Queen, man. Why? The Queen don't want no black person making her coffee, man.
That's right.
The Queen don't want no black man touching their sandwiches, man. Right. The Queen said ban them niggas from working in Buckingham Palace, man. Right. The Queen said I want them working in Her Majesty's prison for £2 a day. That's where she wants black people, man. This Queen was an evil racist bitch, like excuse my French, man. This Queen was an evil racist bitch, man. And this article is letting you know, man. This article is letting you know. Listen, man, let's read more. Let's read more of this article. Let's read some more of it. It says the Queen's courtiers banned coloured immigrants or foreigners from serving in clerical roles in the royal household until at least the late 1960s. Listen, they banned it up until the late 1960s. The Queen was already, the Queen by then, she could have came and said, no, I'm changing that. She didn't, man. The Queen hates black people, man.
That's right.
How much black people have you seen around the Queen? Listen, you know what? Today, you see when the people that can go visit wherever they're holding their body at Windsor Castle or whatever, people can go pay their respects. You know who was in there? Stephen Lawrence's mum was there.
Damn.
Stephen Lawrence's mum was there.
Damn.
Meanwhile, your son got killed by her people, man.
Right.
Your son got killed by her people and she don't care about it. And you're paying your respects to the Queen. Stephen Lawrence must be turning in his grave, man.
Right.
Saying, Mum, she's the queen of the people that killed me, man.
Right.
She's the figurehead of the people that killed me. And you're here paying your respects to her. Black people should not be paying no respects to the Queen, man. No respects whatsoever.
She's a dead wench.
Yeah. Imagine that. She's paying respects to the Queen, man. After her son got killed in 1993, and there's still no justice, man. Still nothing. Still no justice, no peace, like what people like to say. But let's read on. The Queen's courtiers banned coloured immigrants or foreigners from serving in clerical roles in the royal household until at least the late 1960s. according to newly discovered documents that will reignite the debate over the British royal family and race. Hold on, where's Mr. Hold on. The documents also should, hold on. The papers were discovered at the National Archives as part of the Guardian's ongoing investigation into the royal family's use of an arcane parliamentary procedure known as Queen's Consent. Listen, man, the Queen's consent to secretly influence the content of British laws. This Queen was a racist, man. Nobody knows. Most people don't even know that this article exists, man. I've been waiting for her to die so I can bring out this article, man. Listen, from this Queen was 60, I've been waiting for her to die. From she was 60, 30 years, listen, I waited 36 years, I'm not even that old yet, quite as well, but I waited 36 years for her to die for me to bring out this article. Let's read on. It says, they reveal how in 1968, the Queen's chief financial manager informed civil servants that it was not, in fact, the practice to appoint coloured immigrants or foreigners to clerical roles in the royal household, although they were permitted to work as domestic servants. This Queen was a racist bitch, man.
That's right.
You couldn't have clerical roles, man. And they do that in jobs today. Black people can't have managers' roles. Black people can't have the top roles. But you can have a domestic role. You can be a domestic servant. They never make you the manager. You know why? Because they're racist, man.
That's right.
And the racist people that you deal with at the bottom, they're getting the orders from the people at the top.
Right.
They're getting the orders from the Queen, man. Let's read on. It is unclear when the practice ended. Buckingham Palace refused to answer questions about the ban. And that's often the case, man. They refuse to answer questions about the ban. They refuse to answer questions about, what's the word I'm looking, reparations. They refuse to answer questions about all of that. They never want to answer no questions when it comes to those things, man. Never, ever, ever do they want to answer questions when it comes to those things.
Right.
Says it is unclear when the practice ended. Buckingham Palace refused to answer questions about the ban. And when it was revoked, it said its records showed people from ethnic minority backgrounds being employed in the 1990s. Listen, man. No. We don't want to know about the 1990s. I want to know about before that, man.
That's right.
I want to know about before the 1990s. Says it added that before that decade, it did not keep. Listen to the nonsense. They're saying before that they didn't keep records on the racial backgrounds of employees. Listen, man, that's some BS right there. To cover their own back, they're trying to say, well, there could have been black people working for us, but we didn't keep records of people's backgrounds. That's a damn lie. Of course, to keep records.
Right.
Says exemptions from the law. In the 1960s, government ministers sought to introduce laws that would make it illegal to refuse to employ an individual on the grounds of their race or ethnicity. And listen, man, that right there, if they can do that, if they have to put those things in place, what does that show? That shows that they're evil, man. That shows that there's no equality. That shows that there's no equality and not everybody's equal, man. That's what that shows. Says the Queen has remained, hold on. It says the Queen has remained personally exempted from those equality laws for more than 4 decades. The exemption, let's see, 4 decades, 4 years, the exemption has made it impossible for women or people from ethnic minorities working for a household to complain to the courts to believe if they have been. Listen, imagine that. Listen, man. Listen. I don't think they're listening, you know, Quattazar. I don't think they're listening, you know, Quattazar. Let's read that one more time. It says the Queen has remained personally exempted from those equality laws, meaning she don't have to be partial with anybody. Says the Queen has remained personally exempted from those equality laws for more than 4 decades. Says the exemption has made it impossible for women or people from ethnic minorities working for her household to complain to the courts if they believe they have been discriminated against. Imagine that. Being a black man working for the Queen, you can't complain about being discriminated against. Guess what? During World War I and World War II, black soldiers was discriminated against, man. And because they're working for the Queen, they can't complain about it.
That's right.
Because she's exempt from anyone taking her to court and complaining. Understand this, man. She has to face God, man.
That's right.
And God don't care about the status that the earth gave her.
Right.
She has to stand before God, man. and she will be judged, man.
That's right.
She will be judged. She ain't exempt from the judgment of God, man.
That's right.
This royal family that murders everybody, they ain't exempt from the judgment of God, man. And that's the God that we serve, who doesn't exempt people from judgment, man.
Right.
Let's read on. So it's in a statement, Buckingham Palace did not dispute that the Queen had been exempted. So they didn't even dispute it. In a statement, Buckingham Palace did not dispute that the Queen had been exempted from the laws, adding that it had a separate process for hearing complaints related to discrimination. The palace did not respond when asked what the process consists of. Listen, man, this palace don't respond to anything, man.
Right.
You be questioning them and they don't respond. Says the exemption from the law was brought into force in the 1970s when politicians implement the series of racial and sexual equality laws to eradicate discrimination. The office document written, listen, I can't even be asked to read all this. Let's drop that. Now everybody gets the point. The Queen's racist, and there's no getting around it, man. The article right there proves the Queen's racist. Hold on. Now we're gonna get, hold on. Hold on, let's get this. Also, any questions, just type them in and we'll get to them. Now, this is the order of Saint Michael. Now, this is Saint Michael, meant to be stepping on Satan, and they depicted Satan as a black man. That's not racist. And the Queen wears this. The Queen wears this, man. Let's find a picture of the Queen wearing the order of Saint Michael. Hold on, let's find a picture of her wearing it. Listen, man. The Queen wears this order of Saint Michael, and that right there is meant to be the angel Michael stepping on Satan, who then depicted as a black man. Now we're going to stop sharing this. Let's find a picture of the Queen actually wearing the order of Saint Michael. Hold on. She never once said this is racist. Let me take it off. The Queen never did. Hold on. So now here is the Queen wearing the order of Saint Michael right here. Here is there. There's a listen. This is the Queen when she's young wearing it. Still a racist. This is the Queen old when she's wearing it. Still a racist one.
Right.
She ain't gonna change.
That's right.
No one in her to change. She ain't gonna change.
That's right.
She ain't gonna change. Hold on. Hold on. Now we can stop sharing that. So now, hold on. Hold on. Give me a second. Now we're gonna go into King James. Not King. Yeah, King James a bit. Hold on. Hold on. All right, so now we're gonna go into hold on, let's see if this is the right move. So now, obviously, let's start from Henry VIII. So Henry VIII was what? The King of England. Henry VIII was the King of England at one stage. Henry VIII was from what? A Welsh house called the House of Tudors. It was a Tudor. So he's from the House of Tudors. And then obviously Henry VIII, he conquered Ireland. And then Henry VIII, the Parliament labelled Henry VIII as the King of Ireland. So Henry VIII became the King of England and Ireland. So now after that, he passed the throne to his daughter, Bloody Mary. So here the daughter, they call her Bloody Mary. So that's what they call her. She died having no children. So obviously we're gonna get into how King James got the throne. Well, how King James, being a king in Scotland, got to rule over England. So now Henry VIII, King of England, took over Ireland. Irish Parliament labelled him the king of Ireland. So he was the king of England and Ireland in like 1541 or some years like that. He passed the throne to his daughter, Bloody Mary. She died having no kids. She then passed the throne to her sister Elizabeth, who was known as the Virgin Queen, the House of Tudor. And then obviously King James' mother was Mary of Scots. So she was cousins to Queen Elizabeth. Now the first Queen Elizabeth was Henry VIII's daughter, and her and Mary of Scots was cousins. How was the cousins? They was cousins. Why? Because Henry VIII had a sister called Margaret, who married a Scottish king called James IV. So she married a Scottish king called James IV, because obviously at then England and Scotland used to always be fighting with one another. So to relax the fighting and whatnot, one man would give one of his relatives to this prince and that prince. That's how they would marry. So they would do that, and that was to relax relations. So now, at this time, Mary Queen of Scots, she was locked up. I'm sure she was locked up in England. She ran to her cousin Elizabeth. Obviously, Elizabeth beheaded her, which is King James' mom. And then she beheaded her for treason. Well, I think Elizabeth was jealous of Mary of Scots. She was jealous of her for some reason. So she's been beheaded now. Elizabeth was known as the Virgin Queen, and she died having no children. So then they needed to find someone, the closest heir, to be king over England. And in them finding someone to be king over England, they was looking for the closest heir. And the closest heir happened to be King James, the son of Anne, who she beheaded. And because Henry VIII, he was king over England and Ireland, at this time King James was already king over Scotland. So now, obviously, once King James was the closest heir to Elizabeth, because she would have been like his second cousin or something like that, he then became king of England, Ireland, and Scotland. That's how King James became king of Ireland and Scotland. So now, his name was King James, and his family name was the House of Stuart, because his father's name was Bruce Stuart. I'm sure it was Bruce Stuart, his father. So that's his father. So now, hold on, let me just find what's it called. Actually, hold on, we can show it here. Actually, let me get this book, page 44 and 45. This will show you how this kind of shows. Hold on. All right, let me see. Henry VIII. Yep. So hold on, let me see if I don't think you're gonna see it properly, but this right here hold on, this right here is the chart. So that's Henry VII. Henry VII had Henry VIII. And then if you look all the way on this side, this is Margaret, Henry VIII's sister. Margaret married James IV, the King of Scotland. She married James IV. So now they had children. So now this is where they had children. You go down here, they had James V. They had a daughter called Mary. This Mary is what? King James' mother. So now this Mary, you go down here, Mary Queen of Scots. This is his King James's father. So King James' father's here, Henry, and then they had a child, King James. So King James is down there. So now, once Elizabeth died, they had to go all the way up to see who was the closest heir. So now, because the Tudor family was basically finished, because obviously Bloody Mary had no kids, Elizabeth had no kids, they had to look for an heir. So they had to go all the way back up the line. So they've gone back up to here. They've gone to Margaret. because she was a descendant of Henry VIII. She was his sister. So then they've gone down to see who. All of the James V, all of them was dead by then. They've gone down. The only Mary Queen of Scots was beheaded by then. So they've gone down, and then they found the closest heir, which happened to be King James. So that's how King James got the throne, because King James was the closest heir to Queen Elizabeth. You know about that history pot as well. You know about that history pot as well. So now that's how King James got the throne. Hold on, what else do you want to go to? So he became the king of England, Scotland, and Ireland. So now he was what? The 6th king of Scotland, because there was loads of King James before him, King James the first, second, but he was the first King James of England. So in Scotland, he was the 6th King James. In England, he was the first King James. So that's what it calls him, the King James the 6th, and then King James the 1st of England, because that's how he got it. So now he was king of all three, because like we said, Henry VIII was king of England and Ireland. Once he became the closest heir to Elizabeth, he then became the king of England and Ireland, and he was already the king of Scotland. So now King James was from what? What family was King James from? King James was from the Stuart family. So now let's go into what Stuart means. It comes from Swart and all of them words. Swart, which means, hold on, let's put it up, hold on. It comes from the word Swarty, hold on. So they call it Stuart. So it comes from the word Swart and Swarty, which is Stuart is Stuart. It would be Swarty. Hold on, let's get the. So you see how they say Stuart. Back then you would say like Swart, Stuart, Swart. You see how they sound similar. It's basically the same thing. So now let's see the definition of Swart and what Stuart means. Because King James had that name, there was that family for a reason. So now, hold on. It says Swarty, Old English swart, black, dark. And that's what it means. Obviously, going to throw other definitions in there to throw you off. But Swart and Stuart means what? Black. Because that's what they was. Now, they call it different names. They call it Swarty, Swart, Swarter, and then after, so Swarty, the etymology, it means black. And that's what Stuart means. Stuart means black. And King James was what? From the house of Stuart. King James was from the house of Stuart. Why? Because it's black. Now, they changed the definition. They changed, now it just meant black back then. Now they've changed the definition of the word. It sounds similar, but it means something else. Let's get what they've changed it to. Hold on. Was it there? So really, let's see. That's not really the right one. Let's go to the etymology. See, so now the other one was swart or whatever. Now, obviously, they changed the word, and it just meant black. Now they've changed the word. It sounds the same, similar, but now it's derogatory. So now this is what they started calling people, which is letting you know it's the same word as Stuart, as Swart, as Swarty or whatever, which means black. So now Swarthy, see Swarthy is letting you know it's the same thing. Stuart, Swarthy, all of these is the same thing. So now they changed it and made it derogatory. So now this word here means black person, somewhat derogatory. 1961 Yiddish from Swartz, black. So now back then you was called the House of Stuart. They kind of tweaked it around a little bit. Now they've made it derogatory, which is letting you know King James was black, man. Right. The House of Stuart was black, man. Right. The Jacobites were black. That's right. All of them were black. But obviously people lie and say, oh, King James was a black. What we're reading right now is letting you know that King James is black, man. That's right. Listen, we're gonna go one further. Hold on. Give me a We're gonna go to King James' son. Hold on. We're gonna go to King James' son. So this is a book of a man that was a spy. Because obviously after they lost rulership, because James VII was a Catholic and they wanted a Catholic monarch, the Jacobites were what? These were what? Defenders of James VII. They was Jacobites that was fighting to try and get the throne back. So there was a man that was spying on them, and in spying on them, he gave up their likeness of like what color they look like and so forth. Read this from me, page 36. So now this is a book. His name is John Mackey. Was a spy, so you could say he was a traitor. He's spying on the Jacobites for what? For the British. Go ahead.
Is son to King Charles II by the Duchess of Portsmouth. He was carried by his mother into France in the reign of King James and left France in the reign of King.
Hey, Jehovah Ramos, where is your father from? Where's your father from? And then go ahead.
And left France in the reign of King Williams when he declared himself for the religion of and constitution of his country. He is a gentleman, good-natured to a fault.
So now this is talking about Charles, right? So this is talking about Charles, good-natured. Go ahead.
Very well bred and of many valuable things in him, is an enemy to the Buffinoffs, very credulous, well-shaped, black complexion.
Yeah, it was well-shaped and what?
Black complexion.
This is letting you know, man, that what? These Jacobites had black complexions.
That's right.
Letting you know that the Stuarts had black complexions. King James and his sons had black complexions, man.
Right.
They were black men with black complexions. And this is history telling you this, man. Don't believe the lies on the picture that you see on the internet. Hold on, let me get you a picture of what King Charles looks like on the internet. The original Charles is black, man. Don't believe this lying Edomite that calls himself Charles III. He ain't the real Charles, man.
Right.
The real Charles is a Jacobite, man. He's a black man. All right, so now this is when you go on the internet. This is how they depict Charles II. Let me show you. This is how they depict Charles II, like this. When Charles II was a black man. The internet's lying to you. Read that one more time about Charles.
He is a good gentleman.
He's a what?
He is a good gentleman, good-natured to a fault, very well bred, and of many valuable things in him, is an enemy to Buffinoffs, very credulous, well-shaped, black complexion.
Well-shaped, black complexion. The real Charles had a black complexion. Don't believe this Charles III they're trying to tell you is Charles. He ain't have no black complexion, man.
Right.
He shouldn't be on the throne, man. Really, the Jacobites have the right to the throne, man.
That's right.
But they was banned from having the throne. Why? Because they didn't want Catholics ruling. So what did they do? They went to an illegitimate line and said, yo, we're going to pass the throne to this family. And that's the family you see on the throne today. Hold on, hold on. Jump to page 40.
Page 40. His son to King Charles II.
His son to King Charles II. Go ahead.
By Mrs. Gwynn.
Which is what? That would be King James' grandson. Go ahead.
Was made by King William one of the bedchamber and captain of the band of Pen.
So this man's a spy. Everything is in his document.
In the band of Pensioners, and sent by the king to France to congratulate the marriage of the Duke of Burgundy. He is a gentleman every way, de bon naturel, well bred, doth not love buffiness, is well affected to the constitution of his country. He is of a black complexion.
He's what?
He is of a black
This is
complexion.
letting you know the grandson of King Charles II had a black complexion, man.
Right,
Because the Jacobites were black people, man.
right,
The people that ruled Europe were black people, man. And this is letting you know right now, we went into the word Stuart and Swartz and Swarthy. It all means black. They were all black, man.
right.
Don't let people lie to you and tell you King James was a white man. King James was black.
That's
And
right.
his sons was black, man.
Right,
And really, James VII had a son. His son was supposed to be sitting on the throne, man. But they banned his line from sitting on the throne. So what did they do? They banned his line from sitting on the throne. They was meant to pass it to his son. They called him James the Pretender. So that was the name. Whereas he would have been James VIII. He would have been King James VIII. His descendants is supposed to be on the throne right now, but because they banned them from being on the throne, they passed it to an illegitimate lineman. And what did they do? They went to a German house. This German house was called the House of Hanover.
right.
When a king should have been from the house of the Jacobites, man, from the Stuart family, they skipped their whole line and their lineage and said, no, they're barred from being kings. And they left and went and found the German house, man. Went to the House of Hanover and said, you know what? You're now the King of England. And this House of Hanover is where Queen Elizabeth II comes from, is where Charles III comes from. They went to George I. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. They went to George I, man. Let's go to page 74. And this is why you hear about the Jacobites fighting and going to war. Why? Because they wanted the throne back, man. And they passed it to what? A German house called the House of Hanover. Hold on. So the first of Queen Elizabeth family members to sit on this throne was who? George I, man. Hold on. And this leads to the next point, man. This is why you don't marry outside your race.
Right.
I'm going to tell you why. Because they tell you that King James' granddaughter Sophia married someone who she wasn't supposed to marry, and because she had a son with that heathen, George I. No, was it George I's father or something like that? She had a baby with someone she wasn't supposed to ever be with. Guess what happened? They then said, this is now heir to the throne. And that's how George I and that family began to sit on the throne. Because he married, hold on, who did he marry? I'm sure, Sophia, the granddaughter of James I in 1701, when she died in 1714, the succession passed to her son George. So King James' granddaughter, she should have did what? Married a black man. But she didn't, man. She married a heathen. They had a son, and then they said, yeah, is the new heir. And they then put a family from Germany on the throne, man. Give me that, the Holy Seed is mixed. Give me that one. Ezra's 8 and something. So obviously we know the seed is in the man. Obviously what she did is she married a man that wasn't of her nation. He ended up getting the throne. Whereas if she married a black man, guess what? The next heir would have been a black man.
Right.
Let this be a lesson that you don't marry outside your race, man. Because you can give up a whole kingdom. You can give up a whole throne, man. You can give up all of these crowns and whatnot, man. And really the crown that they're parading around with today is what Edward III's crown and all of that stuff. That's what it's called. They even call it Edward's crown till this day. The one that you see the Queen with, originally they know it's Edward's crown. And I'm sure Edward's the one they called the Black Prince. They called him the Black Prince. It was either him or his son. It was Edward or Edward I or Edward II. One of them was called the Black Prince. But the oppressors will tell you they called him the Black Prince because he wore black body armor, which makes no sense. But where was it?
First Ezra.
Yeah, go ahead. It sounds like that.
This is First Ezra chapter 8 and verse 70. For both they and their sons have married with their daughters, and the holy seed is mixed with
And the what?
And the holy seed is mixed.
Listen, man. King James' granddaughter should have never married a heathen, man.
Right,
She mixed up what was holy with something that's not holy, man,
right.
and lost the whole kingdom because of it, man. Lost the whole royalty because of it, man. So much that what? They then gave the throne to George the First, man,
Right.
a German that couldn't speak no English. He had no part being in England, man. He couldn't speak a lick of English, man. Not one bit of English. And that's who the Queen comes from today. That's the Queen's German family. George the First is her forefather, man. Go ahead.
The holy seed is mixed with the strange people.
And that's what happened, man. They mixed, man. During that time, there was a ton of mixing. So much that now you're looking at the lineage, you can't even tell who's who, because why? There was all into interracial marriage and all this nonsense, man. Go ahead.
Of the land,
Go ahead.
and from the beginning of this matter, the rulers and the great men have been partakers.
The rulers of the great men have been partakers, man. Even some of these damn kings during the Dark Ages was partakers in this foolishness, man. Some of the sisters in the Dark Ages was partakers in this foolishness. Go ahead.
Of this iniquity,
And then now, because of that, what happened? You then have George the First, you have George the Second, George the Third, George the Fourth, William the Fourth, Queen Victoria. That's why they call it the Victorian era and all of them nonsenses. You had Edward the Fifth, then you had George the Fifth, and at the time of George the Fifth, he wanted a less German name. Man. He wanted a less German name. Why? Because they was at war with Germans. They then changed the name from the House of Hanover, which was German, to the House of Windsor, and that's what it's called, the House of Windsor till this day, man. They changed the name of it for that reason, to give it a less German sound. There's still German people that just speak English now and call themselves the House of Windsor. And really, you go back, you trace it back, they're the House of Hanover. All right, hold on, let me put it up on here, just so you know I'm not making it up. Let me just put up House of Hanover. It will tell you it's a German house. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. No, this isn't giving me a good one. Hold on, give me 1 second. No, this is, hold on. All right, so now let's just get a little bit, hold on. Share screen. So now it says Hanover, whose members are known as Hanoverians, is a European royal house of German origin that ruled Hanover, Great Britain, and Ireland at various times during the 70s. So obviously after they started ruling Great Britain after George I, but originally they're a German house. So look, look. What I'm saying to you is right here. It says Hanover became an electorate in 1692. It says George I became the first Hanoverian monarch of Great Britain and Ireland in 1714. See? And it says the United Kingdom, at Queen Victoria's death in 1901, the throne of the United Kingdom passed to her eldest son, Edward VII. So that's how you know I'm not making it up, man. That's how they got the throne, man. That's how they got the throne, man. So now you had George V, and then obviously changed the name to give it a less German name. You had Edward VIII, who abdicated the throne. So when you abdicate the throne, it means you give the throne up. He abdicated the throne, why? Because he wanted to do what Prince Harry's doing, marry an American woman. So he passed the throne up because he wanted to marry an American woman. And then, who came after that when he abdicated the throne? Who did he give the throne to? He gave the throne to George VI. He gave the throne to George VI. Now, George VI was ill with lung cancer and whatnot. George VI died when his daughter was on a trip in Kenya doing some work for him. And after he died, guess whose daughter was? Queen Elizabeth II. That's how they got the throne. They got the throne that way. His daughter is Queen Elizabeth II. So after George VI died, Queen Elizabeth II got the throne. So now we're going to go into the crown jewels. Hold on. Listen, Cotters, listen, I got the book of the crown jewels, man. This is the book. Now we're going to show you some of the crown jewels and where they stole it from. So now, hold on, let me get page 48.
It's got the crown jewels, you know.
That's it. You know you can't take pictures of them.
Can't you?
No. The Tower of London, you can't take pictures of them.
How did you get the pictures of them?
Oh, no, you can get it in the book, but I'm not got in person. As in, you can't go there and take a picture of the crown jewels. So hold on. Put that in front of the camera. Not the basically, this is called put it in front of the camera. That is called the sovereign scepter. So there's two. There's one with the dove, and then you see that dove right there. Obviously, they read the scripture where it says the Spirit descended on Christ like a dove. So that's why they put that on the scepter. So move across to the other scepter. Bring it a bit closer.
This one.
That one. Yeah. So lift it up a bit. So you see that big diamond right there? That big diamond right there that sits in the sovereign scepter, where did they steal that from? They stole that from what? South Africa, man. They stole that from South Africa. It's called the Star of Africa. That's called the Cullinan diamond, man. And they've cut that down into 9 different diamonds. So what you will have, the Queen will have some of it in her pendants, and then she put one in her staff. And they will say it's a gift. They will say it was a gift. No, it wasn't a gift, man. You killed them South Africans in the Boer War, man.
Right.
In the first Boer War and the second one, you killed them and put them in concentration camps, man. England had concentration camps before Germany. They starved them South Africans to death and killed them. And now they say, oh, they gifted us this diamond. The thing is these countries are scared to say no to England, man.
Right.
Because they know the last time they said no, there was a whole Boer War and you killed them.
Right.
So anything you ask for, they're going to give you to get you out of their country. So she don't put that diamond in the scepter. And that's where they got it from. They got it from South Africa. Now, the Africans, they call it the Star of Africa. They call it the Star of Africa. Pass the book. Let me get the next one. So now let's go to page. Let's go to the Kohinoor. That's what they call it. The Kohinoor, the diamond that they stole from India. So let's take a look at that one. So this book, it shows you tons of different crowns, because obviously over time the crowns changed. So obviously they got the idea of all these crowns from Edward III. So that's why, and over time they've just changed it. So yeah, show this one. So show this purple one on that side. So the purple one on that side. So now, if you look at that red thing at the top, that's Edward's ruby. I believe it was King Edward III. So that's Edward's ruby. If you look under it, that is the Kohinoor. Point to the colours of the Kohinoor. No, that's the ruby, the one underneath it.
This one.
Yeah, that one. Lift it up just a little. Yeah, so that right there is the Kohinoor that they stole from India, that the Indians want back. They want them back. Now that ruby is Edward's ruby. This right here is full of gems and all of those things. So this crown, did you know that the crown jewels is so that you can't put a price on it that they can't insure it? The crown jewels can't be insured because no amount of money can cover how much the insurance is. No amount of money can cover that. That's how rich this royal family is, man. That they've got diamonds that there's not even a price on it. It's that expensive. That right there is the Kohinoor. So now, pass it again. Let me get one more. Let's go to page 46. So this right here is the orb. So this is the Queen's orb. They call this the sovereign orb. So you see that purple gem thing at the top? That was stolen from Australia. So what you'll find is the Queen's holding a bag of stolen jewels, man. That right there is stolen from Australia. So don't let her lie to you and make out like she's all innocent and whatnot. That was stolen from Australia.
Right.
The royal family is so rich that what? They get paid the sovereign grant. Did you know that they get paid the grant? And what does the Queen do? How does the Queen make sure that her kids are paid? By making them the Duchess of Wales, the Duchess of this, the Duke of Cornwall and Cambridge is Prince William. Prince William gets paid off being the Duke of Cornwall, man. He doesn't have to lift a finger. What they do is they're no different to Alexander the Great, man, that split up his provinces between his generals. The Queen does the same thing today. She splits up her provinces between her children. And that's why you have what? The Duke of Cornwall, which is Prince William, the Duke of Sussex, which is Prince Harry, the Duke of York, which is Prince Andrew, the Duke of Gloucester, which is Prince Richard, the Duke of Kent, which is Prince Edward. They all get paid for free, man. She makes sure all of them get paid for free. Give me Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 12. They all get paid for free, man. They all get paid off the land and everything that land brings in. They all get paid off it. So give me Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 12.
This is Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 12. Woe to him that buildeth a town with blood.
Listen, man. The Queen's building these towns with blood. You're looking at the Duke of Cornwall, Prince William, thinking he's innocent. Nah, man. In order for him to be the Duke of Cornwall, they had to shed blood to get them things, man.
Right.
In order for them to get all the riches, blood had to be shed. For Andrew to be a pedophile and still be the Duke of York, blood had to be shed, man. Woe unto them that buildeth a town with blood. They think they're going to be rich forever, man. Listen, man. Their time's coming to an end. The money, as you know, is coming to an end, man. Read on.
And establisheth a city by iniquity.
And what?
And establisheth a city by iniquity.
And these Dukes established these cities by iniquity, man. They didn't get these cities righteously. They didn't do the right things to get these cities.
Right.
They shed blood and innocent blood and murdered and robbed and killed to get all of these things, man.
That's right.
To get all of these things. And with that, that brings us to the end of the class. Can we open the security announcements and we're out of here?
This is the ISUPK security announcements, where the ISUPK started out 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York. Rule for new brother and sister. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to shed themselves of the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There is another 6 months in which the brother and sister will court each other. After this 6 months period, the brother and sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment, Numbers chapter 18 and verse 21, Malachi chapter 3 verses 8 to 10, means tenth in Hebrew, Ma'ashara, 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you. Give to treasury department or teacher. Priest fund, free will offering for the priest, not mandatory, whatsoever amount you would like. Upcoming holy convocations.
The memorial of the Golden Trumpets, which is September 25th.
Or I come and I'll offer to check the bulletin board in the hallway. If anyone wants to be a trooper in the school, start wearing all black, boots, shirt, pants, headband and scarf. So that we say Amajam, Shabbat, Amajam, Barak, Yahweh Shimya, Shabrak Athab,
Yahweh Shimya, Shabrak Athab,
Yajimatah, class dismissed.
Shalom Israel will be here tomorrow, 7 p.m. till 9. Captain Thrasher. Shalom Israel.